Peterson, I'm a reporter at Digiday. Apple's going to make an update to the iPhone's operating system later this year to introduce a few new privacy features that are basically designed to put a force field around the iPhone, or, for my Harry Potter heads out there, an invisibility cloak. First off, Apple is going to roll out a single sign-on tool called Sign In with Apple. Single sign-on tools are great. Basically, instead of every app that you download that needs you to register an account, you have to send them your email address and also come up with a password or reuse an old password, which you should not do. You can just get rid of that step and log in with your Apple account. Single sign-on tools can be super helpful, but Apple has one big issue with them. Every time you use, say, Facebook to sign into an app, every time you sign into that app, Facebook knows that you're signing into it. So Apple designed its sign-on tool to be more like a black box. Sign In with Apple is a black box in the sense that Apple says it's not going to be collecting any of the information that it would be able to access through the Sign In with Apple tool. But it's also basically a PO box. With other sign-on tools, an app might ask who you are, and the company will send whatever information it has on you. Your name, your email address, maybe your birthday if the app is asking for that information and you give consent for it. Apple's tool is different because it gives an option to actually disguise who you are in the form of your email address. So an app might ask, who am I, and expect me to answer back Tim Peterson, but Apple will say, well, Tim Peterson, would you like to be Tim Peterson, or would you rather this app thought of you as Tim Apple? Now, Apple's not adopting me. Instead, what Apple's doing is creating a random anonymized email address that it will send to the app instead of sending my email address. That way, the app can't send me random emails directly if I don't want them. Instead, Apple would put another black box up here so that any emails from the app go to that Apple email address, and then Apple forwards them on to me so that this app can't have that information about who my email address is, tie it to other information it might have about me, match it with advertisers' customer lists where I might have my email address in their databases and use that to target ads to me or measure how ads performed. In addition to letting people disguise themselves when logging into a third-party app, Apple is also rolling out some features to make it easier for people to hide out in the real world if they don't want to be found by an app. Apps want to know where people are to do things like recommend nearby restaurants, show them local news, or target them with ads because they're in a particular location. But people right now only have three options to determine whether to give an app their location. They can opt to always give the app their location, only when they're actually using the app, or never. But Apple's changing out the always option a bit. With iOS 13, Apple will give people the option of only letting an app track their location just the one time. And then if an app wants to track their location again, the app will have to ask again, and the person will have to decide again whether or not to let the app track their location. Now, all of this makes it seem like the background tracking, where an app can, follow where you are in the world even when you're not using the app, that kind of always on location tracking is going away, and it's not. When an app asks for your location and you say only when using the app can then ask a follow-up question, hey, you said it's cool for me to track your location when using the app. I don't want to press my luck, but is it cool if I always track your location? And this kind of persistent background location tracking isn't the only kind of location tracking that isn't actually going away with iOS 13. At Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference in June, one of Apple's top execs, Craig Federici, made a lot of headlines when he said on stage that Apple would be shutting the door on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth-based location tracking. But Apple's not really shutting the door on that kind of tracking. Instead, it's more like asking companies who want to track people's location using Wi-Fi and Bluetooth signals to knock first before opening it. Quick primer on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth-based location tracking. So when your phone's out in the world, if you have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on, the phone is constantly pinging anywhere it can for a Wi-Fi signal or a Bluetooth signal or both. As a result, stores will have Bluetooth beacons installed, car dealerships will have Wi-Fi available on premises, And they'll use those to be able to track foot traffic, to be able to recognize, okay, what are our busy hours, what are our dead hours, what are the hot spots in a store, or what are the cars on the lot that are getting the most attention. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth-based location tracking is also a way for these companies to know, hey, I advertised online and the person who saw that ad actually came to my store or visited my car dealership. Apple hates tracking, and so it hates Wi-Fi and Bluetooth-based location tracking, which is why Craig Federici said that it was shutting the door on that kind of location tracking with the next update to the iPhone operating system. But again, Apple's not shutting that door. It's closing it, but it's going to let companies knock in order to open it up again. Now, if an app is trying to use Wi-Fi to track someone's location, it's going to have to ask, hey, we use Wi-Fi to track your location, is that cool? Similarly, if an app wants to use Bluetooth to track a person's location, it's now going to have to ask, hey, is it cool if I access your Bluetooth connections? Now, again, Apple isn't getting rid of this information. All it's doing is putting that force field around the information getting out into the world.